Some sad news from the world of the NHL as Gilles Gilbert, who was a star goalie for the Bruins in the 1970s, has passed away. Now, a lot of people think that Gilles Gilbert is just a generic name in the NHL, but he's not. Gilles Gilbert was born in March 1949 in St. Esprit, Quebec, and actually left Quebec to join the OHL and play for the London Knights. Minnesota drafted him in the third round of the 1969 draft, so he was hoping to make Minnesota's roster. Gilbert played for Minnesota, and during his time as a North Star, which lasted 4 seasons, he was unfortunately the goalie that gave up the 500th goal, to Jean Beliveau at the Forum in February 1971. So, Gilles Gilbert played for the North Stars and didn't play much. Like Gilles Meloche and Gump Worsley were the main guys, but at his most, he played 22 games for the North Stars and won 10 games. Then Boston ended up getting him in a trade. And with Gary Cheevers off in the WHA to play for Cleveland, World Hockey Association, Gilbert was the number 1 for Boston. And lo and behold, he led Boston to the Stanley Cup Finals and supposedly a victory over the Philadelphia Flyers. Unfortunately, though, the Flyers won in 6 games. But still, Gilbert really worked his heart out. Gilbert actually set the NHL record for most consecutive wins by a goalie with 17 in the 76 season. So, of course, it was harder to win a game in the NHL because you didn't have overtime in the 70s, regular season overtime, so you had to win or tie. So he won 17 games and got 33 wins, 8 losses, and 10 ties in the 1976 season, an .843 winning percentage in 55 games. Unfortunately for Boston, they faltered in the playoffs. And that was when Cheevers came back to the WHA, from the WHA, back to the Bruins. So Cheevers and Gilbert would be a put-it 1-2 punch, one of the best goalie deals in the NHL. And actually being runners-up for the Vezina in 1980, when the Vezina was for goals against average and not for best goalie. Gilbert had 17 playoff victories for Boston, making him 6th all-time in history. Unfortunately, though, Gilbert will be famously known for being the goalie in Game 7 of the 1979 semifinals to give up both Guy Lafleur's tying goal with less than a minute left, and also Yvon Lambert's goal in overtime, which saw the Habs go to the Stanley Cup Finals against New York instead of Boston versus New York. Gilbert came into the series after Cheevers went 0 for 2 in the first 2 games. Gilbert came in and was hot. He was 3-2. He was actually named the first star 3 times in his 5 games. And Steve Shutt of the Habs even exclaimed that Gilles Gilbert stood on his head. He was the reason they got to Game 7. So that was true and all that. Gilbert did play 1 more season for the Bruins in 1980, but then left for Detroit to play 3 seasons. In his NHL career, he had 192 wins, 143 losses, 60 ties in 416 games, a .327 save percentage, 18 shutouts, and in the playoffs he was 17-15, including that wild playoff runs of both 74 and 79. So Gilbert was a decent goalie. And Don Cherry would always make the point about Gilles Gilbert and, how good he was and how the Bull Terrier Blue would predict who should be in net for the Bruins. And Don Cherry would listen to it, Blue. It's a very good autobiography about Grapes from 1983 that you should read. And it talks about Gilbert and Cheevers and that famous Game 7 in 1979.